What's going on, everybody out there? This is Popular Stranger, and we are back at you again today with another Madden 23 Ultimate Team video. In today's video, we're going to be going over the best defensive abilities you should be using right now in MUT 23. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you like it, if it helps you out, make sure to go ahead and click that thumbs up button. Shows a lot of support on the channel, helps the videos get noticed. Also, if you're brand new here, you were searching around YouTube for MUT 23 content, whether it's how to make coins, how to get free players, how to build your ultimate team, you found the right channel for everything. Stay a while, click that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on as well so you guys are alerted when we drop additional videos. Let's get right on into it. So Friday, we gave you an update on the best offensive abilities you should be using right now. If you missed that video, we're going to link it down below in the comment section as a pinned comment. Today we got defense. We're going to break this down by various positional groups, and we will be using MUT.gg's ability tier list to help us out as well to go through all of the abilities. Let's start with the defensive line, defensive end specifically, and you could use this information when we're talking about outside linebackers as well, specifically OLBs that you're going to be using as pass rushers. And you know, I'm sure a lot of you have heard me say this in previous videos. Right now, to me, pass rushing abilities are almost useless unless you can get them for 0 AP, and we will cover a few of those that are good, that are 0 AP and available on a lot of players. But the Unstoppable Force, which can be found on AKA cards, specifically George Karlaftis, Gregory Rousseau, Maniac Shaq Leonard, Milkman JJ Watt, DeMarcus Lawrence the Tank. This is an X Factor that's auto-activated upon the start of the game and stays live for 5 plays. It goes off for a little while and then it comes back on. On those players I just mentioned, you can get it for 1 AP. There's so many people out there with secure protectors and edge protectors and all of these really cheap 0 AP abilities on their offensive line that pass rushing abilities aren't working the way they used to. So the Unstoppable Force is really a great neutralizer to secure protector and edge protector, and it works very well. The only problem is it's only limited to those 5 players, but I highly recommend at least getting one of those players on your defensive line if you need some help generating pass rush. Now, with the other abilities that are going to be good on defensive ends specifically, Double or Nothing is definitely one of them, probably the best outside of Unstoppable Force, but I can't stress it enough. I would look for players who get this for 0 AP. At this point, I wouldn't even waste spending 1 AP on it. I would allocate all of your AP towards either Unstoppable Force, certain defensive tackle and middle linebacker and linebacker abilities, and for the most part, the rest is going to go to your secondary. You can go to MUT.gg/abilities to see all of this information yourself on any of these, but as you can see, there's, over 30 players right now that get Double or Nothing for 0 AP. So if you happen to have one of those on your roster, this is an ability I would recommend activating. The other one on the defensive end side of it is going to be Edge Threat Elite. This one is good because it gives you a built-in under pressure as well, so it's basically like Edge Threat plus under pressure, and that's what makes it elite. There's only a few players that get it for 0 AP. If you do spend 1 AP on this one, I wouldn't be mad at you. Anything other higher than that, I would stay away from it. And I would also make sure that you're not putting it on like defensive tackles, only defensive ends. It's edge threat. If you're in the middle of your D line, that's not the edge, so don't make that mistake. But this is probably, second to Double or Nothing because there's more people who can get Double or Nothing for 0 AP. As far as the effectiveness of it, I would think Edge Threat Elite is a little bit better than Double or Nothing, but again, there's not many players that get it at 0 AP or on a really good discount. Defensive Rally is a really good one because it impacts your entire defensive line on 3rd and 4th downs, helps you get more sheds, more pass rush animation. So if you can get this for 0 AP on any defensive end or even defensive tackle, I highly recommend it. If you want to spend 1 AP on it, that's not terrible, nothing more than that though, but there's a handful of players, I think like 15 to 20 players that can get it for 0 AP right now, and I'm sure we'll be getting more as we go on. We're going to talk about this when we get to linebackers and safeties who are sub linebackers, but Tackle Supreme and also Secure Tackler are really, really good abilities right now because there's so many of those running backs out there that have the Freight Train auto activated, or like Quad Father, King Henry, of course, Gus the Bus, even the Phenom right now, Cordero Patterson. Secure Tackler and Tackle Supreme help neutralize that, so you don't need 2 or more people to come up and make make a tackle when you have one of these abilities equipped. So there's a couple defensive tackles and defensive ends that get secure tackler for 0 AP. Javon Hargrave is one of them at defensive tackle, and then also we talked about tackle supreme. Those are really, really good right now. Two abilities that not only can be used on defensive ends, but also defensive tackles, basically your whole D-line, that I don't think you're going to hear a lot of people talk about, and I would only recommend it really if you can get it for 0 AP, but it's certainly worth it if you have an extra AP to spend and you can get a player that gets either run stopper or the other one is no outsiders. I've been personally finding that those two abilities, again, I wouldn't focus my defense on it, but these two abilities, no outsiders and run stopper, have been very good against the run, especially when people have a quad father, a Gus the Bus, and they're out there trying to run stretch plays. No outsiders is very good. Run stopper, it says defenders with this ability do not need to spend a point on shed attempts during a run play, aka they get more sheds on running plays. You see it light up a lot more than not. One card that it was really good on for me, which is a 0 AP, is going to be Team of the Year Hassan Reddick. He's not really known as a run stopper, especially with the attributes in this game, but he definitely did a very good job at stopping the run with the run stopper ability on there. And like I said, with no outsiders, you want to put it on defensive ends, not defensive tackles, but Shaq Leonard gets it, who also gets that unstoppable force, aka X Factor. I found that he's really good on those outside stretch plays and whatnot with no outsiders equipped. For defensive tackles, some of the abilities we've already talked about, like Tackle Supreme, Secure Tackler, Double or Nothing, Defensive Rally, are all very good. The best one is going to be Inside Stuff, and there's a lot of players right now that get this for 0 AP, including the free 99 overall John Madden defensive tackle that you can level up from a 91 to a 99. If you don't know what Inside Stuff does by now, you probably barely have played this game. Basically, it gives you better, quicker, faster sheds on inside runs like inside zones and halfback dives and whatnot. Now, it can be neutralized by being double teamed if your opponent does that, or if they happen to have secure tacklers on their guards and center, but for the most part, Inside Stuff can definitely wreck the running game for your opponent. Let's move up to the next level of defense, and mostly we're going to focus on middle linebackers. The outside linebackers that are going to play in pass coverage will land in this boat as well. Everything else is going to be on the defensive line that we just talked about. Lurker is definitely your number one option, but do not spend any AP on this. If you scroll through the mutt.gg page here, you can see that there's 59 players that get it for 0 AP. So if you're putting a middle linebacker on your field, I think sub linebackers and safeties are more effective right now, but if you have formations that don't allow that, you're going to want to make sure that you have some type of linebacker out there with Lurker for you to use her, and that's going to help you get that jumping animation on pass plays that they will not get without this ability. We'll talk more about pick artists when we get to the secondary, but that's also another option you can use on pass coverage, outside or middle linebackers. Mid-zone KO is another one that's pretty good. Basically, you're going to get better zone reactions, more knockouts in between the numbers, between 10 and 20 yards. There's not a ton of linebackers that get it, and there's none that can get it for 0 AP. But if you need, like, you got 1 AP left on defense and you're looking for somewhere to spend it, and you do find that you put middle linebackers or some type of pass coverage linebacker on the field a lot, mid-zone KO is definitely a good idea. The best card that gets it is going to be that 99 overall Fred Warner. Anthony Barr is another one, which would make a really good user that gets it, but mid-zone KO to me is going to be more of a let the AI control that player ability that you want to use. Lurker is more so for usering. For cornerbacks, pick artists is almost a must. The good thing about pick artists here is that if we look, there are 145 players who get it at a discount, and at this point it's pretty standard. Anytime we get a new cornerback or even safety in the game, they usually get pick artists for 0 AP. This is going to help you get better animation, especially against the taller receivers. It's something that was super dominant earlier in the year, and I still think it's needed in my opinion. If you play without it, you certainly can. You're not going to lose a bunch of games if you don't, but if you want an advantage and you want to get more interceptions, pick artist is definitely the way to go. Now, when we talk about coverage abilities, we're either going to go deep out zone KO or we're going to go deep route KO. The difference between the two is that if you play a ton of man coverage, and I'm talking like man coverage all the time, you're going to want to go with deep route KO. If you play a lot of zone coverage, or even if you mix up your coverages, at that point, I'm going to recommend deep out zone KO. If you don't know what it is, basically knockouts are forced. The one thing that I've learned over the last like 2 weeks or so is that I always click onto my defender to make a play because I just naturally do that. It's how I've played Madden for years. If you don't click on and just let the computer handle it, they tend to force these knockouts a lot more. So basically, defenders with this ability are going to force those knockouts and react quicker in deep zone coverage. This is going to be 20 plus yards from the line of scrimmage and outside the hash mark. So your cornerback 1 and 2, you're usually going to want deep out zone KO or deep route KO depending on your style of play, but you're usually going to want those abilities on those cornerbacks to force incompletions. Acrobat is probably my favorite defensive ability right now, especially because we're seeing so many players get it for 0 and 1 AP. A lot of those game changer cards like Kendall Fuller and Kevin Byard, you need that upgrade token to do it. Caleb Farley with the Team Diamonds that just came out last week. Acrobat just gets diving animations, whether it's for a user or an AI controlled player. It can make a lot of big plays for you. And like I said, now that we're seeing 0 AP discounts and 1 AP discounts on a lot of players that get it, if you can get a player that gets it for 1 AP, and a lot of times you're going to see it's either Pick Artist or Acrobat. At this point, I'm taking the 1 AP Pick Artist, the 1 AP Acrobat over the 0 AP Pick Artist. It just made so many game-changing plays for me. I think you would find it very useful if you equip it on your players. Inside Shade and Outside Shade are really, really good as well. Inside Shade's going to be slightly better, but this is only if you run man coverage a lot, like 90% of the time. There's a few players that get it for 1 AP. Marcus Peters, which is a free card that you can get, is probably the most noticeable there. You also get Antonio Cromartie from the Ultimate Legends, which came out last weekend. After that, there's a bunch of people that get it for 2 AP. Spending 2 AP on it isn't a terrible idea, but I think as we see more players get it for 1 AP, which I'm sure to close out the year we'll get a couple more, you're going to see that it's going to become more popular. But if you run a lot of man coverage, Inside Shade and Outside Shade, very, very good. For safeties, whether they're going to be at the top of your zones in your formations or sub linebackers, pretty much the majority of the abilities we've already talked about are going to be used there. So you can go deep out zone KO on your high safeties, right? That's going to force those knockouts outside the hash marks, 20 plus yards. So a lot of tight formations, gun bunch formations, deep out zone KO is very, very useful. If you run a lot of spinner or 0 man coverage blitzes where your safeties are going to be in man coverage all the time, you're going to want to go with deep route KO. Same thing that we talked about with cornerbacks. Of course, Pick Artist is a great option when you can get it for free on your safeties. If you can get Acrobat for 1 AP or 0 AP on a safety, I definitely recommend it there as well. And one more time, we mentioned it with defensive tackles. Tackle Supreme, Secure Tackler, very good to help you come up and play the run game, especially if you have sub linebackers on the field like a Sean Taylor or a Andre Sisco or just a couple. There's a ton of them out there, but those are the players I'm currently using. So those are the best abilities for safeties. A couple other abilities that I just want to close the video out with here, only if you can get them for 0 AP and you have a slot open, are going to be things like Crusher, Enforcer, Speedster, El Toro, Under Pressure. But again, I need to stress, only if you get those for 0 AP and it's in a bucket that you're not using it on right now or any ability on, and you got to use one, right? You don't want to let it go to waste. Those are some pretty solid abilities only for 0 AP. And there you have it. Those are the best abilities you should be using right now on defense. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another video. My name is Popular Stranger. I'm out. Peace.